Media's Mining Weekly is interviewing Vuslat Bayoglu, the managing director of Menar, a private investment company with an actively managed and growing portfolio of mining assets. Currently, Menar has anthracite, coal, gold, manganese, and nickel in its portfolio. Vuslat, with anthracite being the focus of this interview, Mining Weekly would like to kick off by getting your insight into anthracite. Firstly, what's your assessment of the present state of the global anthracite market?
Prospects are looking very good for anthracite, and there are many reasons for that, but some of them are as follows. First of all, after the pandemic lockdowns in the world, major economies are trying to bring their economies back to the levels before the pandemic lockdowns started. So they're putting a lot of pressure on the economies to make sure that they produce steel, they produce their whatever raw material that they have to do, ferrochrome, ferromanganese, all ferroalloys. So and obviously in this process, anthracite plays an important role because anthracite is a replacement of coke because it's very high carbon product. And the second important thing is obviously the issue between Russia and Ukraine created a massive gap in the anthracite market because Russia is the biggest anthracite supplier in the world by far. Like they were supplying 80% of the anthracite to the world. Now with the Russians missing in terms of playing in European market and Western market, then those companies which have sanctioned Russia has to buy anthracite from somewhere else, and they look for countries like Peru, Canada, United States, South Africa, and South Africa obviously then becomes an important supplier because we have anthracite production, even though it's not very high, but it is a valuable commodity now for the markets that cannot buy anthracite from Russia. And then obviously, like I said, the biggest important value of anthracite is it's a replacement of coke, which is made out of coking coal, and a shortage of coke, which is highly possible, or the high prices of coke could be eliminated by buying anthracite, which is natural, and you just like mine it and wash it. You don't need to go through a process of like coking coal becoming a coke. Hence, because of being replacement to coke, anthracite becomes very important. So prospects really look good for anthracite. It's the biggest challenge is how to produce anthracite because generally anthracite occurs, except Russia, in very difficult conditions like underground mostly and with a lot of geological anomalies. So you have to deal with all those kind of things. So, but in general, like I said, anthracite looks very good at the moment in terms of like market value and in terms of having the demand coming from different parts of the world.
And what's the difference between the market dynamics of, say, thermal coal and then anthracite?
Okay, thermal coal is sold on an index. Like if you look at South African thermal coal, it's sold at an index of API 4 or if it's delivered to Europe, API 2. Whereas there's no index for anthracite. So there are two types of market for South African anthracite. It's either local or export. When it comes to export, the prices where we look at is like mostly what happens to coke price, metallurgical coke price. Because mainly for ferroalloys, ferromanganese, ferrochrome, all those like smelters, they use coke. And then they replace coke with anthracite. So we look at the coke price wherever it's moving. We move with the coke price in terms of anthracite. But there's not a specific index for anthracite pricing. And for sinter producers, like producers in Brazil mainly, they use a blend of API 4 and metallurgical coke prices. But in general, metallurgical coke prices is a good index for anthracite pricing.
And from a South African point of view, how important is anthracite now to the South African economy?
South Africa is producing about 3 million tons of anthracite per annum, and about 60% of that is exported out of Richards Bay and Durban, and 40% is used for local production. And it is quite important for local production, especially for sintering, which is mainly done by SA32. It's important for ferrochrome industry. Glencore and Cemencor are very big customers for anthracite, and it's important for electrode paste industry, which is used in smelters. And to give you an example, like why it's so important, when the Russia-Ukraine crisis started, we struggled to supply to some of our customers because we had an issue at our Zululand operation with a strike, workers' strike, and one of our customers eventually suspended their operations. They couldn't carry on producing because we couldn't supply the anthracite, and they couldn't buy it from Russia. So it is critical ingredient for local manufacturers, electrode paste, ferroalloys, and sintering customers. And it's also important for export purposes, like ZAC, a small anthracite mine, but it produces the prime quality, which is very important. There's no other mine in South Africa that produces 8% product. We export anthracite to the United States. It's very unusual for a resourceful country like United States to get anthracite, but we've been doing that for the last 5 years. We've got a fixed customer; they always buy from us, and we supply anthracite to Brazil. We supply anthracite to Ukraine, to Vietnam. These countries all buy, and they're interested in our unique quality product coming from ZAC.
And with talk of energy transition from coal to renewables, where does anthracite fit into the debate?
Anthracite is mainly used for metallurgical operations. So depending on all the efforts regarding green steel, so far there is no other process to follow. But in the steel manufacturing, it's either coke or anthracite used. But because of the durability and the volatiles, very low volatile, the emissions are very low compared to thermal coal when you use anthracite. So the purpose is completely different to use anthracite. It's not for power generation. 90% of the cases, anthracite is used for steel making or ferroalloys making. Hence, the emissions we cannot really compare it with what happens with the thermal coal firing process. So it is negligible, but there are emissions, and until engineers find another way of making steel, I think anthracite will still play a role. But again, compared to thermal coal, anthracite's adverse contribution to emissions are very limited.
And you bought Zululand Anthracite Colliery, or ZAC, from Rio Tinto in 2016. Has the investment been worthwhile?
I think we inherited a good mine from Rio Tinto. They set very good standards in terms of health and safety, in terms of production, and in terms of like the relationship with the community, because they invested heavily in terms of doing things for the community. So we started at a very good baseline, and then we added on top of that, we brought some agility to the company so that we become flexible. When the price is right, we move more product. When the price is wrong, then we try to cut the cost. So overall, we are very happy that we made this deal with Rio Tinto, and we are still supplying them product at their smelter in Richards Bay Minerals, and for us it's a good operation. It makes money, and we have very good relationship with the community in the area. So we are very happy that we invested in Zululand Anthracite.
And you're looking to extend the life of mine at ZAC through the Imgeni extension. What's the significance of that life extension?
We are at the moment mining in 3 shafts in 5 different sections. The main challenge at ZAC is the geology is very difficult. It might be the most difficult underground coal mine in South Africa. We have several issues, like be it gas or be it dikes. You have to deal with stonework most of the time. So the production has got lots of challenges. Hence, we have to find out like what else can we do to increase the production. We decided to put a new shaft. We call it Imgeni, and we, after long timeline, we got all the approvals on the environmental licenses and the licensing and the water use license. We got everything sorted, so we started clearing the site, and we are hoping to get the first coal out of Imgeni in March, April next year. But we also do a lot of exploration drilling in the area, so that like we extend the life of mine. Because ZAC is in a very rural area. It's far away from the coastal area. We are about 100 k's inside the coast. So for that area, ZAC creates a very important economy. It employs about 800 people, and we have a lot of local suppliers, be it trucking, be it building dams, fencing, cleaning, doing landscaping, running the plant. So we got contractors that need ZAC to be operational, and we also have a very large community that depends on us to give them water. We give water in 17 different taps to about 80,000 people, and that all coming from underground. We are purifying the water and we are supplying it to the community. So from many angles, ZAC needs to carry on. So we do exploration drilling to make sure that, like, after we finish Imgeni, we can have another shaft to start, so that we keep mine going.
And what kind of product are you looking to produce there?
We will produce our prime product, which is 8% ash, which is mainly used by companies like RBM or Glencore, Cemencore, or customers in the US. And then our middlings product, which has got about 15 to 18% ash, will be mainly used again for sintering companies like Vale or Sa32 or Samarco in Brazil. And we also have a discard plant that we wash our discard dump, where we take the product and that can be used for power generation if need be. And there are actually two countries in the world that uses anthracite to make power. That's Vietnam and Ukraine. And from time to time they buy from us. Vietnam also buys from Australia. So the products are mainly 8%, 18% and high ash products, which will be delivered for different and diverse markets.
And going forward, Vuslat, what's your general assessment of anthracite?
You know, this problem between Russia and Ukraine changed many things, and one of them is anthracite, obviously, because Russia being so close, especially on the Baltic side, to Europe, they were the biggest supplier for European market, and European market is a good market for any anthracite supplier, because they pay well and they have established business, so the risks are very minimal. So we have got that market now. If you are able to produce anthracite, then we can serve that market. And generally, anthracite deposits are very close to Richards Bay, Durban area, so it's a big advantage. You don't necessarily need rail access. You can truck the coal to the port. I think South Africa can benefit from this in the short run, in the long run, because that market in Europe will prefer buying from South Africa. They've got good relationship with South African companies, and South Africa has got a good relationship with Europe. Hence, we can benefit from that market as country. And the biggest challenges in that part of the world, in South Africa, is you have to have a good relationship with communities, and to start the project, you need to convince the NGOs that, like, the impact will be minimal. Obviously, every mining business has got impact on the environment, but then to be balanced and then to mitigate the impacts and the risks, if you show that you are a responsible company, if you get their support, South Africa can offer more product to Europe by opening new anthracite mines in KwaZulu-Natal.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. speaking to Vuslat Bayoglu, the Managing Director of Menar